Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be replacing the alternator in the old girl. Why are we doing this? Well, first of all the dash lights have come on. They came on momentarily for a start, but then stuck on after a drive into town and back. I tested the alternator and it was charging at 16 volts, which is way too high. So I took the old alternator out, replaced the voltage regulator, and still the dash lights are on. So today we're going to be replacing that with a new one, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a really short video for you today. So sit back and enjoy. First things first, we're working with electrical components, so we will be taking the battery terminals off. All you need to do is take the earth off every single battery connected to the car so that there's no possible way that the positive on the alternator can arc out on the block or the body of the car. Next, we'll take the airbox out. This is quite a simple thing to remove, and it saves a lot of time mucking around in hard to get places if it was to stay in. Next, we're going to take the aircon compressor out of the way. To do this, we'll be cracking loose the tensioner pulley, loosening off the tension on the belt, and just slipping the belt off. It can just stay there, and then we'll be taking the aircon compressor out of the way and zip tying it back so that we can get to the alternator easier. With the alternator now clearly visible and accessible, the first thing you're going to do is take off that main positive feed off the top and the plug at the back, and that's all the electronics disconnected. Alright, next you can go and take that belt tensioner off, not like I did here. Try and keep the spanner on the bolt. And then after that, you're going to go and take that bottom bracket bolt out before you can go and loosen the belts off. Before you go and put the new alternator in, it's a really good idea to compare the new and old side by side. Just check for the same size, shape, where the electrical components go, the length of the pulleys, all that stuff, just to make sure that you do have the right alternator before you go and mark it in case you have to send it back. Now, there's no real easy way to do this. Removing and installing the alternator is such a pain when the engine is inside the vehicle. Obviously it's very hard to get the alternator into that bracket, so yeah, just lever, gently knock with a rubber mallet, whatever you need to do. Just, yeah, I wouldn't recommend hitting it with a hammer, just a dead blow hammer or a rubber mallet if you need to. Try and use levers and just get it seated in there so you can slip the bolt back in there. Now, this is an excellent time to check your belts, check your fan belts, check your aircon belt. Just make sure, like, invert it and make sure there's no cracks or anything like that, because you don't want to run into trouble on the highway with these. It's a good idea to check these quite often. Now, you want to get the bottom alternator bracket bolt firm, and same with this top tensioner bolt, and then it'll be a matter of using the tensioner to get that belt tension right. Now, I'm reusing these belts, so you don't want them over tight. I like to make sure this top bit of belt here I can turn 90 degrees, and that's well and truly tight enough for belts that you're reusing. Tighten everything up nice and firm. I like to use my inner torque wrench. I gave this bottom alternator bracket bolt about 1/4 of a turn with the breaker bar, and the top one about half a turn with a spanner. So just so everything's really nice and firm and not going to come loose. Now plug all the wiring back in, and a little bit of cable management never hurt anyone. After that, we'll be putting the aircon compressor back on, belt, and tensioning that, about the same as what we tension the alternator belts to. Now airbox back in, I got a couple little tricks here. I like to spray a bit of CRC on the bit that goes into the snorkel hose just to make it slide in a bit easier. Otherwise you are fighting and pushing it back into the guard. And also make sure there's a bit of grease on those bolts that are going back into the body, because you want to make them nice and easy to remove next time, and not so they're going to rust off and break inside the body. All right, so at this point, I've got everything back together. You can see that we've got a shiny new alternator down there. All the belts are back on, all the bolts are tight. The only thing I haven't done is put the battery terminals back on, and I haven't put the bash plate back on underneath either. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the battery terminals back on, start it up, check that everything's okay. Then we can go ahead, put the bash plate back on, so because we know we don't have to access that anymore, and then go and clean up our tools. So there you have it everyone, that's my really quick video on replacing the 1HZ alternator. I hope this might have helped a bit today if you were in a similar situation and replacing the alternator on your 105 series or any 1HZ. And if you have any questions about the process, feel free to leave a comment below, find me on Instagram or Facebook. And yeah, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe and share with your friends. I'll see you guys in the next video.